Okay.
Because at this point, you're just so jaded and frustrated and disappointed, really.
Right.
Because you go in
You
humble.
expected more, right?
Yeah, you go in humble.
Welcome to the ATL Business Club.
All right, what's going on, Misha? How are you?
Hanging in there,
Awesome.
doing my thing.
I love it. So we're going to talk about business today. So you have a lot going on, a lot of changes
Yes.
that I've noticed. So for those that don't know, Misha has been a longtime client of mine, and we've had our ups and downs. Nothing bad, but she's came into the organization when she needed us and has exited out, and now she's doing tremendous things. So we're going to talk about that. You recently opened up a new business, but before we get into all of that, right? Why entrepreneurship?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I feel like, why not?
It's rough. It's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel like, for me, it's something that I didn't, before I knew what an entrepreneur was, before I knew that word, I was already an entrepreneur. Like, in my mind, I knew this was what I was going to be from very young. I just didn't know what it was called.
Right.
So I always knew that I wanted to own my own business.
Okay.
I knew that. Like, I grew up watching my father be an entrepreneur. I didn't know he was an entrepreneur.
Right.
So it's just something that's in me. It's not even something I can stop if I wanted to.
Yeah. So other than your father, did you have other people that you mirrored or that mentored you, or did you know any actual business owners that even subconsciously used to mirror?
Yes, I did. So my father was one, and then my neighbor was a hairstylist.
Okay.
And I went to her when I was young, maybe like 7 or 8. My mother was like tired of doing our hair.
Right.
She took us to her salon. So I watched her, and then there was certain things that, like, events that happened in her life that would have kind of knocked anybody else off. But she kind of kept going, and I always kind of like attached that to entrepreneur, her being like a businesswoman. It just always was super boss to me. Like,
Now, how old were you at that time?
8, 9.
Okay. So it started real early. So do you remember the first thing that you did that was entrepreneurial? Did you ever do anything in elementary school, middle school? Like, when did you first like do something and say that, you know what, I want to get a dollar for this?
So the funny thing is, right, I used to do things. It wasn't entrepreneurship because I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't really thinking. I just was thinking about, I liked doing hair. Like, so for our eighth grade prom, or what they call it, formal.
The formal, right?
Yes. I did everybody's hair. Now, the funny part is that all my friends, their parents gave them money to do their hair, but I didn't get the money.
Oh, wow.
So I missed that part.
Yeah.
But I just had like a whole salon in the living room doing everybody's hair.
Right.
I didn't get paid for it.
So you've been doing hair for a while. So let's fast forward a little bit. You get a little older, and you finally say that, you know what, I do want to start getting paid for this.
Yes.
So tell me about that first experience. Did you immediately just say, you know what, I want to open up a salon, or did you work under somebody else? And how did that transpire?
So the hair business was a journey. It was a long journey. So what initially happened was I got a job, right?
Yeah.
So before, I don't know how far back I should go.
As far back as you want.
It's really, really a lot.
It's a lot?
So, but I'm trying to make it as brief
Concise?
as possible.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I knew what I wanted to do. When I was young, I worked since I was 13.
Right.
Like, I had a job since I was 13, so I knew what I wanted to do. So I remember telling my mom what I wanted to do. My mom and her friend, and they was like, no, like, smart girls don't do hair.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So being that I was about 16 then, so I didn't have, I was like, oh wow, I was kind of lost for a minute.
Right.
I didn't know. She's like, no, they was like, no, go to school for computers, because at this time, computers were like not even, everybody didn't have a computer in the house. So that was like, oh, that's the new thing, just go to school for computers, no direction, just go to school for computers. So I went to school. Now I don't even know what I signed up for, and I tried to do that for a while. And I went to school, that didn't work. And then finally, I said, I'm going to go to cosmetology school. By the time I went, I had my son, and I was used to getting that money, being in New York. Your friends is on the go. You're trying to be part of, like, the scene.
Of course.
And I didn't have enough discipline at that time to sacrifice what I needed to. So it took me a while on the journey of doing hair.
Right.
And then It really wasn't until I moved to Atlanta that I started taking
Okay.
it seriously.
Gotcha. So how many years ago was that?
Ooh, I moved to Atlanta 16 years now.
Right. All right. So
Yes.
16 years ago, you start taking it seriously.
Yeah. I went to cosmetology school 3 times. I dropped out 3 times on the 4th try. That's when I finished.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you look at that as a sign that this is what you're here to do, though?
Either that or I'm really crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, most entrepreneurs are a little crazy. I think
Yes.
you have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur.
You do.
So you hit a couple of key words that I like. So crazy.
Yes.
You use the word discipline.
Yes.
And then you also, I'm not going to call your mom a hater, right? But like throughout our journeys of being an entrepreneur, you're going to be up against people that are telling you, no, don't do this, don't chase what you want to chase. And sometimes you're right, though. Sometimes you do
they
need
are right.
guidance. But you said that you've been thinking about this since you was 8 years old.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
fast forward, you're in Atlanta. Did you get anybody else trying to slow you down at this point?
So the thing is that, and I'm glad you said that about haters, and so because there's a difference. There are some people who are like going to be haters, and then intentionally, right? And then those are the ones who are not haters, but they're lovers, right? So they love you so much that they expect or they see you in a different light, or they think that this is what you're really
and they don't want to see you fail either.
Exactly. And they don't know what they don't know. True. So the hardest thing as an entrepreneur or someone who is driven in that way is to talk to somebody else who's not. To share with someone else, to share your dreams with someone else. Because the minute you do that, they don't understand. It's a totally different brain pattern of your brain,
different way of thinking, right?
Totally different way of thinking. It's like straight and ziggly lines.
Yeah.
So I think that I want to say that of course there was the haters, right? And then there was the other people who unintentionally kind of derailed or discouraged the journey, and it wasn't intentional. It was just based on what they knew or what they didn't know. So but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like straight line versus squiggly lines. I look at it like I compare entrepreneurship and non-entrepreneurship to languages. So it's almost like when somebody speaks English and then the other person speaks Italian. I don't even want to say Spanish because sometimes you can kind of pick up over time what certain words mean, or even Greek. When people are like, hey, that's Greek to me, that's because the language is so different than English. Sometimes you're like, you know what, I really don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what you're trying to say. Right. And when you're talking to somebody that's not an entrepreneur, you're like, hey, I was up till 11, 12 o'clock last night, and they're on the couch and they're enjoying themselves, and that's okay because that's not them. But the fact is, they don't really understand how your mind works, and really, you don't understand how their mind works either. Because sometimes you'll look at somebody just watching football. So Sundays is a big day for football, and I get it. I'm a sports guy, but an entrepreneur is okay with missing that game, missing the whole Sunday.
Yes.
And they don't understand why you can't enjoy or take time off.
Right.
So again, I get it. So they're not haters, like you said. They're lovers.
I mean, you have there are some haters though.
Now for real, there are real haters.
Some love.
So let's talk about them for a second. So a hater.
Okay.
I'm going to give you my definition,
okay,
and then you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay. So a hater, like the lover, is going to be like, hey, they might in your face tell you that they're supporting, but then behind your back do something where either they're holding you back, and sometimes they don't even take action. Sometimes they could be not even talking to you, but in their own mind, they don't want to see you win. Yeah, I saw your face. They don't want to see you win at all. So those are real haters.
Yeah.
So it could come from different places. It could come from envy. It could come from jealousy. Sometimes I see people hating because of their own situation. So they kind of wish that they were doing what you was doing. But the one thing, there's a quote that I saw on Instagram the other day, and it said, a true hater, you'll never get hate from somebody that's doing better than you.
Well, I don't know if that's true either, though.
Let's talk about it. Have you gotten hate from somebody that's, because typically, and again, you're right, it's possible that somebody above you will hate on you, but I've noticed that people that are really doing it, and they're doing it with authenticity, they kind of want to bring you up, especially if they see that you're willing to make a way for yourself and you're not asking for a handout. So I'm not saying that people won't charge for time or they won't give you tips and tricks.
Yeah.
But I don't see the hate there.
I think the key words you said was authenticity.
Authenticity.
You know,
Yep.
if you're doing it with authenticity, because there are people that can be doing better than
Right.
you and still have a poverty mindset.
Right.
And so, and that with the inauthenticity.
Authenticity. It's a tough one, right?
It is, right? And I got a little lisp, so it makes it worse.
You're fine.
That together
Mm-hmm.
creates an absolute recipe for being a hater, and you're doing better than the next person. So it is still possible. Like, and I don't want to say I've experienced it. Well, kinda. I mean, kinda. I have.
Right.
No, as a matter of fact, a lot. Like, let me be really honest or open with myself about it. A lot. It happens, and especially when I was coming up in the hair industry.
Mm-hmm.
Just the amount of energy that I would put into like just building my business and building myself up.
Right.
I have definitely stepped into a couple of situations where that bothered people who it shouldn't have bothered.
Oh, wow.
Know? So, people, that's a real thing.
Yeah,
that is a real thing.
Yeah. All right, so we're not going to keep too much energy on the hate,
Yes.
right? We're going to get to the
Yes.
love in a second.
Yes.
We'll talk about the people that are uplifting us and the people that are helping us
Yes.
achieve our dreams. So you come to Atlanta. You don't immediately open up your own thing, do you? You're working under people. But talk to me about the transition from, learning, working up under people, up until the point that you're like, hey, you know what? I want to open up my own gig.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a journey. So like I said, I moved to Atlanta, and when I first moved to Atlanta, I was working corporate. So because most.
So you wasn't even doing hair at all?
No, in the kitchen.
In
so
the
I've
kitchen, on the
always
side.
did hair
It was
in
a
the
side
kitchen.
hustle.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in the kitchen on the side. I've always done that, even as that's what kind of kept me coming back, because it was something that I loved to do since I was young.
On a regular basis.
Right. And so I get to Atlanta, and I'm like, I started, I was in corporate, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna work, because this is totally different.
Right.
I was like, this is not gonna work for me, right? I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to school for the third time. That was the third time.
Okay.
And then I just wasn't. It was, I don't know. It just.
Was it because school wasn't for you? Was it just clicking?
I'm not a school person.
Okay, so it wasn't because you were disagreeing with how they were instructing you.
No.
It was more.
No.
Was it the structure?
So the third time when I came, that was nothing to do with like Atlanta or anything.
Right.
Like moving here.
Yeah. Nothing.
Working in corporate though. When I worked in corporate, I was like, oh, this is different. I need to not do this corporate thing anymore.
Right.
So I went back to school.
Okay.
And just again allowing things to detour me and not really setting that discipline yet. Like I wasn't ready to set that discipline yet.
Right.
So anyway, and then I had just had my second son,
Right.
so it was a little
Life
crazy.
Life was coming at you.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's
Hey,
you can look at it either way. It's
Right.
another story. So, going into what you said, at first when I left out of cosmetology school, or actually while I was in cosmetology school, I did something I started working in salons. Like I just went in salons and started working.
Right.
Would I do that again? No.
Why?
Not in a way that I did it. I would have been an assistant, but I went in as a booth renter. I started renting booths.
Right.
And I wouldn't have done that because I needed time.
Okay.
Yes.
So you weren't fully to where you needed to be at that time.
Exactly.
In order to be renting a booth.
Exactly.
Right. What were some of the things you missed out on, you think?
Learning the business.
The business, okay.
Yes, learning the business. There were some skill sets. I had been to school, like I said, by the time I did that, I was in school. This was the fourth time I was in school. I could have taught the class.
Wow.
Because I had went through the course almost 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
You done failed 3 times.
Exactly.
Nah, I get it.
By the time that I went to the fourth time, I thought I knew everything. So I was like, they were in school told me that the last school, I was like, oh, I went to a really good school. So to me, it was full of people who were just in the industry for a while. I just knew the business, but I was like, old school. I know what to talk about. Right. They were like, you're gonna come out making $25,000 a year. I was like, no, I'm not. That's crazy.
Wow.
I work corporate. I was like 20. So I wouldn't listen, and because I wasn't listening, I stepped out. And I will say, by not actually taking the time to grow and learn the things I need to learn, it cost me years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it cost me a lot of years of bumping my head, skinning my knees.
Right.
I mean, it cost me a lot of years.
Yeah. That's part of it, though. I think I think about that all the time. What if I did this? If I got a mentor sooner? If I put my head down? And I think that there's a real problem that a lot of entrepreneurs face because of, I think once you have that entrepreneurial spirit in you and the light bulb turns on and you want to take action right now.
Yes.
So you want it today. So the minute I say that I want to be an astronaut or whatever, and I want to start an astronaut school and I want to make money being an astronaut, like we're ready to do that tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
Microwave it.
We want microwave it, right?
Yes.
So, but the problem is I haven't flown a space shuttle before, right? I just have the idea, and because like I'm good at execution, I'm a people person, I'm good with personalities, I'm a delegator. So there's certain skills that I think entrepreneurs just have in them, and one of them is taking like immediate action. But the problem with that is that sometimes you just have to slow yourself down, be like, hey, let me take it easy, let me learn this thing,
Yes.
develop some more skills, get a mentor, etc. So now I'm with you. All right, so let's fast forward some more.
Okay.
So you're going through this challenge, you rented the booth, but it's not working out. So tell me about between that and you getting to the point where you have like Urban Lotus Salon.
Okay, so actually before I had Urban Lotus is my third business.
The third business,
Yes,
okay.
yes, it's
Yep.
the third
And for the
business.
people that are listening right now, Urban Lotus Salon is your benchmark
Yes.
business. That's what we're doing right now.
That's what we're doing
And
now.
we're crushing it. But tell me about that. So before you got to Urban Lotus, you actually had two other businesses.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yes. So while I was in school for cosmetology
Right.
the last time, I started a hair company, a virgin
Okay.
hair company. So
Yeah.
it was a company started out we didn't really know each other. We met each
Okay.
other in school.
Yeah.
And we was like, we had the same kind of idea for business. And
Right.
so I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so we did it.
Okay.
And so that was my first business. And it went really well while it went well. And then
Right.
we hit a spot
And it didn't
not
go
knowing
on.
what we
Yeah.
not knowing
You don't
what
know
to do.
Right.
Didn't really know what to do next. We had no idea what to do when we ran into problems. So we just like, okay, it's over.
Wow.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
was like, it's over.
Just pump the brakes.
Just
Yeah.
pump the brakes.
Just stuck. Yeah.
We didn't know. We got
Right.
stuck, and we was like, this is okay. Never mind.
Done. Right.
Done.
Next.
And so that was my first business. So going back into the salon industry though, that kind of helped me a little bit while I was renting the booth because I had that and I still was working
Right.
and I was going to school.
Of course.
And I had like a 3-year-old at the time. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
it's tough,
I was
yeah.
yes, I
Again,
was doing
life.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So but it helped me through that time because I really wasn't making the money that I could have been making.
Right.
And so once I finished school, I kept working. I actually stepped back and went into being an assistant a little bit.
Yeah.
And then went back in. And it took me a while. It took me a few years to get my footing because I didn't know what to do, really.
Right.
The skill set that I needed to have, even in just doing the services, weren't that, which is fine. Most people don't start off like that. But I think the main thing is I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
So I didn't know how to choose a place to work.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was supposed to trust. I didn't know, I didn't know. And I was like green. I was
Right.
like, you could have sold me any kind of magic beans.
Right.
I would have bought it because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just wanted to get to that
Right.
place.
But you didn't give up.
I didn't give up.
You didn't give up.
I didn't give up, and I bumped my head a lot. So, I got to a point where I owned the first salon I
Right.
owned, really out of like an emotional reaction.
Gotcha. So the first salon is really the second business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
The
okay.
second business.
So it's the second business, but it's the first salon. It's a brick and mortar.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Brick and mortar.
Okay.
And that came from it came out of an emotional reaction to something that happened.
Talk to me.
It was one of those situations that I was talking about where someone who was basically doing better than you
Okay.
didn't really,
Oh, really?
weren't really that happy for you.
Wow.
And at that point, my husband's like, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Like, you need to do something.
Now, all right. So So this is not a relationship podcast, and it's not going to turn into a
Yes.
relationship podcast.
Oh, gosh,
Right? Because
yes.
those are crazy. But they're crazy, but they serve their own purpose,
serve
right?
their purpose.
But let's talk about him for a second.
Yes.
So was he telling you, all right, let's slow down because of finances, because it was driving you crazy, or because he saw the hate that you didn't see?
No, he actually was telling me that he's the reason why I opened up the salon.
Okay.
Yeah, no. He didn't
Okay,
say
so he was a
slow down.
supporter
said,
in the beginning,
Yes, he's
yeah.
like, now it's time. You may
You need to do your own thing.
Do your own thing.
Okay.
Because at this point, like, you know, this is actually doing the opposite of what it's supposed to be doing. So
Right.
now it's time for you to maybe think about your own thing.
Right.
I was like,
whatever.
cool, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so, no, he was the reason why I did it.
Right.
I wouldn't have probably pulled. I probably would have. Honestly, I don't know if I would have quit. I don't know, because that's not me. I'm going to keep going. But I can say that I probably would have, I don't know. It probably would have changed me. I don't know.
Right.
But
you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's good that he had the insight to, one, help you out, but also,
Yes.
you know, sometimes people that are not entrepreneurial or, you know, your supporters in general, if they're able to have a good conversation with you about things that you might not be seeing, and it's okay to sometimes,
Yes.
I don't even know how to say it, almost quit under your own control, right? So I don't even call it quitting. Mm-hmm. It's like making a decision to stop because that's the best decision to make right now for everybody.
Right.
Because sometimes you can keep going and just run yourself into a wall, and things get it's a detriment.
Yes.
But you knew that you had to stop at that point. So what did you do between stopping and then getting to Urban Lotus Salon? Like how long was that?
So I didn't really stop. So what happened was I was at a salon.
Yeah.
Something happened. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was out of character.
Okay. Wow.
Or, you know.
The New York came out?
And I mean, and this is actually the second time in a row that happened. So that's why
at the same location?
Like, no.
At a different location.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm real cool.
So what did he say? So this was I cut you off. You said that this is when your husband said what?
Yes. He's like, okay, you need to probably open up your own salon.
Okay.
That's when he's like, you need to open
right.
up your own.
So how did these now? Like I just want the juicy story. Like so, what was happening? Was it because you had a problem with authority, or was it because there are creative differences? Like how did the tiger come out?
So this is the thing, and I think you can say I'm pretty coachable for the most part.
I think so. Yeah.
Now, getting me to kind of like
come out your character,
coming out my shell a little bit may be difficult, but I'm not resistant to, you know,
differences, creative differences, opinions.
I'm not resistant to
right.
that.
So what did it? So I just need the answer.
Oh,
was it language? Was it communication?
It was straight hate.
Straight hate. Okay, here's the thing.
Hate.
So in the very beginning of the podcast, we're like, you know, nothing's off the table, right? And you're gonna talk about everything. So if you don't want to talk about this, you don't have to. But I want to know.
You know what? I'm ready.
Let's do it.
I've told this.
It's never come out, right?
Yes.
And and the hater, if you're listening right now, we're beyond that. We're professionals.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all good. We're just telling the story.
Name names,
yeah, we're not going to drop names. But if you're watching it, you know who you are. Let's hear what happened.
So, what basically happened is I came in from another situation, and I was a little angry at the first situation.
Okay.
But when I came in to this particular salon, it was a weird kind of setup or whatever, but that never bothered me. It had nothing to do with me. I was there to work, and so I kind of negotiated some things for me to ramp up. I'm like, okay, let me have a reduced booth rent so I can build my clientele and kind of get it. So when I came into it, I already knew what I was made of. So I left the other situation. I said, if I have 5 clients, I can make it.
Right.
If I have 5 clients,
that's
all I need. And I was like, I'm going to work to get 5 clients. And I got 5 clients. Actually, I got more. But I stopped counting at 5. I just know I needed that 5.
That was your minimum, right?
That was it. I said, girl, if you can get 5 clients, you fine.
You're good.
So once I went in, I was like, okay. So I got my 5 clients, and it was just on from there. I am grinding because I am going to be focused. I'm laser focused.
Can't
I'm
quit.
Not playing. I am
not here to lose,
right. That's it. So I think that what happened was the manager, I don't really even know, it was a manager, wasn't even the owner at the time. I think that she expected me to fail. She expected me to fail. She wanted me to fail so that she could, now she was renting her booth, so she can rent another booth and have me working the booth that she would rent.
Oh, wow, okay.
She was ready to pimp me out.
Gotcha.
So she wanted me to fail
So you could work for her.
Exactly.
So she could do less work but still make money.
Exactly.
I'm following the math.
And not in a good way.
Yeah, I'm following the math. Yeah.
Yeah. And
right.
so I didn't fail.
Right.
So then the sabotage came to happen.
Yeah.
Like, the interrogation of my clients. Where did you find out about her? How did you get to her?
Wow.
That stuff.
That is hate.
Yeah, like, and then, I would market and promote myself. So it was so silly. The what caused it was a sign. Like, I wanted to put a sign outside.
Yeah.
And it was like, you can't put a sign outside.
Right.
But you put a sign outside. I'm
Right,
like,
so why not?
Yeah. And then that became, and then it just kind of like went on from there.
Okay.
And then it went to like changing the locks. It went crazy.
Right.
Yeah. But
Petty.
she wasn't even the owner. How you gonna change the locks?
Yeah.
You
That's
don't
tough.
even own the salon, and you change the lock. And me and my client was sitting there doing, the locksmith came to change the locks.
Wow.
And I was told I could only work when she told me I could work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that instance, that whole entire piece was like, I gotta do my own thing.
Yes. Well.
Well, in a different way, or was there more?
Well, that piece was it, but I was out of character. Because at that point, and I think from there, I was like, that's it.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
You got to control your own situation.
I gave you a quick brief.
Yeah, I think there's more.
Version.
A clean podcast version.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
So, but I mean, I gave you the basic details.
Yeah, that's what we needed to know.
Yes.
Like what really, made the volcano erupt.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
It was really like, I came to work. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. Right.
I paid my booth rent on time every week, and I came to work.
Right.
And that's it. Like we're all here. We're all adults. We're all grown ups.
Gotcha.
We're all here.
Gotcha. So educate us though.
Yes.
So educate us now. So we have people that are listening that are either small business owners or want to be a small business owner. I'm sure we have some young ladies, probably some young men that want to eventually transition from working in a booth or working under somebody just like you. They might be in the same type of situation or they might not be, but either way they want to get to the next level. So what are some of the things that you did to transition from out of that situation? And obviously you had something that triggered you to push you. But what are some of the, give us 3 or 4 steps that you did to find your current location, Urban Lotus?
So it was Silk Out Salon, and I went from there to Silk Out.
Silk Out, gotcha. Okay.
So I'll just go back and say that, and I will say this: my experience is not
everybody's typical, right?
In the beauty.
Oh, it's not unusual.
No,
it happens all the time.
It happens all the time. I mean, and unfortunately, this is just some of the things that I've heard, crazy stories that happen to stylists that and a lot of times what happens in these situations, they leave the industry.
They just totally.
They leave the industry.
Right. Okay.
Because at this point, you're just so jaded and frustrated and disappointed, really.
Right.
Because you go in humble.
You expected more, right?
Yeah, you go in humble and then you come out. So basically, I picked up the pieces. I picked up all my business, and what I did was when my husband suggested that, I was like, okay. There's only one problem. I really didn't have a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, but I don't know where. Okay, all right.
So give us the keys.
The funny thing is, Cass, I'm not. Every time I tell somebody this, it sounds so cliche, but I honestly
don't know where the money came from.
I just started making moves, and
So let's peel back the onion though. So you don't know where the money came from, but you do know some of the steps you took, right? So one, it took you actualizing, saying that, hey, this is something I have to do, right? So talk to me about like what that piece looked like. You just saying, hey, you know what, I got to do this.
Yes.
In one sentence, what did it look like to you? In one sentence.
So you mean moving? So in one sentence, I said I have to do this, and the first thing I need to do is find a space. All
right, so period. So the second piece, so you actualized it. So what was the next action you took? Did you just physically go out and start looking for spaces?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
absolutely.
And we're in Georgia now. So what was that process like? Did you try to figure out what city you wanted to be in?
I already knew.
You already.
And
you can tell us. So this is a Georgia-based podcast.
Yes.
So where did you want to go?
I knew that I wanted to stay in Henry County.
Okay.
Particularly Stockbridge.
Okay.
So one thing that I do is I collect information that may seem like it's useless, but I file it away.
Okay.
So I remember a stylist telling me that some landlords will let you open up a business in an office suite.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I was like, I'm gonna open up a business in an office suite. I'm gonna open my salon.
I'm gonna
so
do it.
And it was that it was cheaper and
Right.
everything else. So I went. Now the crazy thing is now a lot of them won't let you do that.
Right.
But at the time I was like that, and I specifically went looking for that situation,
Right.
and I found a business, a landlord who
Right.
allowed me to come do it. He did all the work.
Nice.
He did all the work.
Right,
And
right.
it was so funny. Me and my husband, we went to go look at the space, and it was a bigger space. It was a big space. It was too big. And I was like, well, it wasn't too big, but I was scared. I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm scared. You got to cut this in half.
Right.
He's like, okay, I'll cut it in half for you. And I was like, okay. And
Right.
I'm starting negotiating. And my husband's like, how are we doing this? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
He was like, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I like it. Right. So, all right. So you actualize it. You put it out into the universe. Like, this is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is that you took action.
Yes.
Right. You took action. You followed recommendations that were already in your head. So you've already been plotting this, even if it was subconsciously.
Exactly.
Right. You find a landlord. You're able to make it happen, and you get your space. There's challenges, but the door is open.
Yes.
You have support from your husband.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's
with
talk
that
about
first
just
salon,
opening the
I
space.
played it very safe.
Okay.
I didn't want a space that I could not afford to have by myself.
Makes sense.
Because I also, so along the way in each situation I had, good, bad, or ugly, I collected things that I saw that was either a challenge. If it worked, I kept it. If it didn't work, I also took note of that.
Okay. So how do you document that? Like as a business
Really
owner?
honest, all in my
Just
head.
in your head? Okay. Gotcha.
Because I'm like you can ask my now. You can ask him that. I'm an elephant. I will remember.
Things.
I
Right.
forget a lot of things.
But you also remember a lot of things.
I remember. A lot
Okay.
of
I got
things.
you.
So things like that, like I remember details. So I remember things that, especially if it is something that seems like it could be valuable, I'll remember it.
Okay.
So I remembered like things that this is the situation that happened here, and I self-assess a lot.
Okay.
So I also assess every situation that I'm
Right.
in. So I assess what I could have done differently. Even in that last situation, I
Right.
assess what I could have done.
Of course.
And there's things that I could.
Yeah, you have to be accountable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's not their
It's
fault.
you.
It's me.
Right.
It's me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in control of me. So I remember things that I didn't like, things that not necessarily things that was working, things that didn't work. So
Right.
one of the things that I noticed on that from a good situation and a bad situation was that the common thing is that one person couldn't afford it, one person could. And the person that could afford the space by themselves was always in like total control of everything, you know,
Gotcha,
of
yeah.
their business and just
Of
the
course.
way it flowed.
Right.
So that was one thing that I stepped in and made sure that if nobody else was open in those doors
Right.
in that building, I could sustain it, and I could sustain it working at Publix if I needed to.
Gotcha.
If I had a slow day. But
Makes
I wouldn't-
sense.
I
Of
wouldn't
course.
count on that.
Nah, I got you.
So,
Right.
But yeah, so that's the main thing, and that's how I kind of started everything. It was a booth rental salon. I knew that I could pay the rent by myself, and
Right.
everything else that I got from them was extra.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Now that's fantastic. I mean, when we met, you were doing other things, right?
Yes.
Right. And I was able to visit the location. I see that it's thriving. Employees are happy.
Urban Lotus.
Urban Lotus.
Yes.
Oh, so we haven't even gotten
We
there
haven't
yet.
got to Urban
Yeah.
Lotus.
All right. So let's fast forward.
Yes, yes. So Silk Out Salon. That was my first salon. That was
second business, but first salon.
second business, first salon.
Booth rentals.
Yes,
Booth rentals. Gotcha.
I knew that I didn't want that model.
Okay.
Because that model as a business owner just never keeps it doesn't really give back. It doesn't give
Okay.
you a chance to one.
So you're just spinning your
spinning your
wheels.
wheels,
Gotcha.
right,
But
you know.
you can't scale it.
You can't really scale it unless
Okay.
you just open a bunch of booth rental salons.
Okay.
And then you're capped at what you can make, and there's no exit plan really. And there's not a lot of profitability in that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's really no purposeful for me for what I had developed as a purpose now. Now I got purpose. Right? 'Cause
Nice. Look
now
at you.
I'm
One of the 4 Ps.
Yeah,
Look at you.
like I came back. I went through all these things
Right.
and had all these experiences, and now I have a purpose because I'm like, this is. Can I cuss?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't
Yeah.
like, this is.
Right.
You know, like nobody should have to go through
Right.
this. And then I started meeting people in the booth rental situation, like
Right.
styles that would come in
Yeah.
that had gone through so much trauma. I'm like, we should not have to go through this. It has to be a place where you can come out of cosmetology school and work and learn and be able to make money and grow and then go about your business once you get to a certain place, and nobody should hate you for that.
Wow, okay, I got you.
So that was how it started coming. At the time, it wasn't Urban Lotus, but in my mind, it was developing.
You were developing that, right?
Yes, and then for me as a business owner, I'm like, and this model of a booth rent to me is like, okay, like I don't like boundaries. I don't like hard stop. It got to be something that I can scale.
So we have to get to the third spot. So the third spot is Urban Lotus Salon. You found your purpose, and it sounds to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that in this whole entire journey, let's call it a journey, from the time you were 8 to mom saying, hey, let's learn computers, to you not getting a check for doing your hair at the formal, to transitioning, having a baby, having another baby, being in Atlanta, right? All the way up to this point, it sounds like an entire journey of you realizing that you want, or you don't want, other people to go through some of the things that you went through, right? Absolutely. Some of the drama, some of the obstacles, and of course there's going to be challenges. But you're saying that you're put here to help other younger cosmetologists avoid some of those things that they're just not necessary. You don't have to go through it. Am I right in saying that?
You are right. And the thing is that like we can take cosmetology out of it for a second, right? Naturally, that's who I am. Okay. Like I am naturally that person. If you tell me that you want to do something, then I'm already.
Let's go. Right.
And all that useless information that I remember for no reason why God allows me to know,
start kicking in.
It starts kicking in, and I'm like, well, when did I? So I hear that, and I'll. If I don't know how to do it, let's figure out how we're gonna do it. So that's who I am naturally, and it doesn't matter what we're talking about. I'm kicking in to solve a problem. I'm kicking in to be that support and encouragement to somebody. So I just happen to like doing hair, and so it's a natural thing.
Right. Yeah. So, now I love that. I appreciate you again giving back to them, but also giving back to us. And I think this is a good place to transition. Because you said, you know what, it doesn't, some of the business tactics, entrepreneurial skills that you need don't obviously only deal with cosmetology. So let's talk about, branding your business. That's what I do. People that are listening, the one thing that they're always trying to get is like, hey, you know what, I know I have this passion, I want to start this business, but the number one fear that small business owners have is getting clients, getting customers, right? Yes. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. Just because it's my favorite topic, right? But also I know that people that follow me, my audience, they want to hear as many tips, tactics, resources, tools, obstacles. How are you, and we're not even talking about them, how are you right now in regards to your process? Earlier off record, when the mics were off, we talked about you ramping up social media, getting better, also finding your purpose there too. So let's spend a little time there, not a lot of time, but a little time in regards to what you're doing right now, what's working, what's not working. And if you had not any tips, one tip for cosmetologists or new salon owners who are struggling getting clients on a regular basis. I want you to drop some gems on that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a loaded question. It's a lot, but it comes down to marketing. How are you so successful now? And we're not even going to talk about what you're currently doing. We're going to get to that part in a second.
Okay.
But Urban Lotus salons, like again, how are you mastering that? So
going back just a little bit to come back forward. So when I changed over from Silk Out Salon to Urban Lotus, I was on Instagram like crazy. Right. Now, it doesn't, with the archiving and all that stuff changing, but I was on Instagram like crazy. I would post 3 times a day, 4 times, whatever I needed to do. Also, I talk to people. I go outside, I talk to people. Okay. And even now, I want to say now I probably talk at least once a day. I'm mentioning my business to somebody outside. Okay. I'm saying something to bring them in Chick-fil-A line yesterday. I was like, hey, you want to be a model for my business? Boom. So I'm always talking about it, and I try to find an opportunity to do that. But when I was marketing Urban Lotus, I used social media a lot. Okay. Now I will say the crazy thing is that it's easy to market a service. It's hard for me. It was hard for me, and we talk about that to like transition into talking about myself. But when it comes to the business, I can do that all day long. Right. Yes, I can stand behind the brand. I can market. I can show. Right. And that's really how it is. Staying very consistent. Right. And very just like diligent. And I mean, setting goals, like
Okay.
knowing that I needed to make a certain dollar amount every day,
Right.
every week, every month. I would just go hard.
I love that.
I use Google a lot and
Okay.
just word of mouth. And
Okay.
to be honest, the best thing to do, the way that you can in any industry, is to give good service.
Love it. Love it.
Give good
Love it.
service.
You dropped
Yes.
a lot of gems. So I heard a lot of things. I heard consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you being the number one ambassador for your business, meaning
Yes.
talking about your business every day, taking charge, posting as often as possible, right? But the biggest piece that I think I took out of it is really giving good service. Sometimes a lot of people are like, hey, how do I get more clients? And I tell them all the time, let's hear from some of your past clients. Because if you're going out to a restaurant, right, and you've never been there before, the first thing that you're doing, I know my wife is doing it, we're going to look at the reviews, right? We're going to see if it's 5 stars, 4 stars, but if it's 2 stars, you know what? We're not going. We're not even going to take the risk, right?
I'm shaky at 3.5.
I'm shaky at 3.5 as
Yeah.
well, right? We're not going to do it. We might read some more and be like, okay, that was probably like a Uber Eats issue or whatever, but the food, they're saying the food tastes good.
Right.
So again, we got to dig deeper. But you could apply that same principle to your own business, and if you're giving good service, what's going to happen is, the fourth thing that you talked about, which is like word of mouth. People are going to start saying that, hey, you know what?
Exactly.
You have to go see Kaz. You got to go see Misha, because at the end of the day, you're going to get results. You're going to get good service. So you have to find a way to transition the good service that you're giving into something that new customers could see.
Exactly.
Right? So whether that's social media, whether it's commercials, whatever, just you need social proof. You need social proof.
And I use that all
Yeah.
the time now. Right?
Okay.
I think I got that from you. I got that from you. I did. You cry. I got that
Right.
from you.
Yeah.
And I say that to we need to get you social proof. Like
Right.
you have to have that, because how else is somebody going to believe that you
Right.
can do what you can do,
Yeah.
right? So, but yeah, having good service is so high on my, that is
On the list, yeah.
It is that's a zero tolerance
Yeah.
in my business to not have good.
Now, I'm with you. I mean, I've even recently had an issue where, due to a lack of communication, some employee rumblings, I dropped the ball at Gladmash, and we failed. And I felt so bad. It made me feel literally sick or ill, because I know that that's not me. I have a
Right.
reputation, and I talked to this long-time customer, and I was like, hey, this is what we're going to do to overcome that, and we're going to overcompensate, because me giving good service and me having a business are not two different things. And sometimes people think that they're two different things.
Yes.
Me giving good service is the business. It's not even the business. The good service is the business. You can't have a business go long-term. When you think about the businesses that have been in business for several years, that are doing very great, right? Financially, great reputation, they give you what you expect, right?
Yes, and I'll say this because there's
Hit
some
me.
businesses that don't
Mm-hmm.
give great service and they make just as much money.
They do,
The
right.
key is, to me too, this is the other part of it, is
Hit
that
me.
you have to know who you're talking to. You
Right.
have to know your audience.
You do.
So,
Right.
and I mean, just we know that there's just certain businesses that
Right.
just that's not their thing.
That's not their thing, right?
Right.
But we still need them, right? We still need gas in the car,
Yes,
right?
or even it's not their thing, because that's not the people that they're speaking to don't care about
Right.
it. They just
nah,
want the
you're
product.
you're absolutely right.
You know what I
right.
mean? Like-
It's taken them several years to build up their brand to the point that service is not the key thing.
Exactly.
The brand is the key thing.
Exactly.
The brand is the key
Yes.
thing. So
that's
right.
not what brings people. The product or the brand.
The
is
product
what
or the brand.
brings people in the
Yep,
door.
yep.
And that's cool,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I won't name names.
Right, but yeah, we won't not-
There's
but we know.
places,
Right.
There's things that doesn't go with service.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
No,
like,
you're
you
right.
know?
You're absolutely right.
So
You're absolutely right.
You also have to know who you're talking to, or know what clientele you want, right?
Right.
So that, I mean, we talking business, and it's just what it is. That does dictate the amount of service that you put into it,
Right.
right? Because sometimes you can have. It doesn't mean that you can't have good service and a product that is in demand and care about more about the product and service. It just is that you have to know who you're speaking to. You have to know who your audience is to know how to handle them or what type of service. Some service is white glove service and some is not. You know, and that's okay. You just have to decide which one you are and handle your business accordingly.
Yep. Yes. No, I totally agree. All right, so as we land the plane, this has been fantastic. Yes, one of our best conversations so far, right? Good, I love it. But as we land the plane, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now. So you have a new venture.
Yes, I do.
Talk to us.
Urban 360 Salon Suites.
Urban 360 Salon Suites. All right, so we've come literally back full circle, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what has that been like? Why did you do it? How can people get in touch with you?
So
let us know.
Urban 360 Salon Suites is a totally different. It's the salon suites. Your ownership. You own your. You just come in. You own your business. You open up. So my bigger vision is for the whole thing is to have a place for the stylists that I'm developing to go if they choose to.
Gotcha.
So I don't, of course you can start at Urban Lotus and, build your clientele, but where do you go after that?
Right.
And if you're looking to continue having a connection with me, I wanted to be able to do that. You
can still help them.
And still help them.
Right.
So I opened up Urban 360 Salon Suites. And it's not just for them, but in my mind, I have this kind of like...
It's a place for them to graduate to. It's a normal progression.
Exactly.
Yep, I'm with you.
Exactly. So, I'm a real estate. I'm expecting them to stay with me forever.
Right, exactly.
So, I developed it out of that. Like, what do you do next? Okay, now they're here, then they just go off into the world, and they can still do that, but it's just an option in case that they don't, so that they don't feel like, I'm leaving and I'm starting over with somebody new or whatever. So that was what the vision was for it. So how you can get in touch with me is I have urban360salonsuites.com.
Lovely.
Also Instagram, Urban 360 Salon Suites, Urban Lotus Hair Salon,
right.
Misha Long for it.
Right, there you go. So there's plenty of ways people can get in touch with you if they have more questions. I'm sure they will. Because again, this has been enlightening, not just for me, but I'm sure to the people that are listening, to the people that are watching. But we have one more question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you had to give one tip to an up-and-coming entrepreneur that wants to open up a small business in Georgia, what's that one tip? What's one tip that you would give out to people that's listening?
Mentorship.
Tell us more.
Find a good mentor or a good person to attach yourself to that knows what you're trying to do. It cuts years off. It cuts so much years off. Just finding that person who has done what you are trying to do, who's been in who can really handhold you and take you through the process, I think is invaluable.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. Yes. Misha, thank you so much.
Yes.
And that's the pod. Appreciate it.